what is the typical what is typical reality for a Venezuelan citizen now? Because we never hear about it. We have no idea.
Well, it's what you would expect in a socialist paradise. It's basically you don't have enough food to eat. Calorie intake in Venezuela has collapsed over the last 15 years, 20 years. You don't have medicines. You don't have hospitals that are functioning. You have no grid, electricity. You have problems all the time in Caracas, everywhere, in a country that is very hot. Many regions of Venezuela are very hot. You don't have air conditioning, you don't have any of that. And only people who can get access to dollars because there are remittances going to the country, they manage to survive. But this is the reason why almost a quarter of the population have left. And if Maduro is reinstalled in January, you will have another couple of million living in Venezuela, by the way. This is going to happen, and we are expecting that all over Latin America. You have no rule of law, zero rule of law. So you basically have a regime that controls the judiciary, the legislative, everything, and the police. Any day, someone can knock at your door and they take you a prisoner, and you disappear, and no one knows anything about you anymore. You have to be, if you are in the opposition, you have to be hiding and very careful. Even I am on a blacklist, I was told, and that's one of the reasons why I've never been back to Venezuela since last time I was there, 2014, even if I'm not really relevant within the country, but because I have argued against the Maduro regime in different media all over the West, probably at least in the United States, in Latin America, and Spain, I'm not welcome. So imagine people who are living there. My friends are hiding from the regime. You have many families that have been torn apart, completely destroyed. Because, let me tell you also an anecdote that is really interesting for the audience. I was once in Miami and I took an Uber. And I started talking to the driver, and I thought that he was very well educated and really intellectual. Like more than the normal. He knew a lot about law, for instance. And I said, what did you do back in Venezuela? I was a minister of the Supreme Court in Venezuela, a member of the Supreme Court of Justice in Venezuela. And now I am your Uber driver. So this is the reality of millions of Venezuelans. Not only poor people or middle-class people, but also people who are very successful. They had their jobs, they had their companies, and they lost everything. They lost their families, they lost everything. And many of them have families members that have been killed by the regime also. So, and so the situation is so desperate that I think Venezuelans are going to fight to the last breath in order to make change possible. And Maria Corina Machado, by the way, has said this. The fight is until the end. And so I don't know how this is going to look like. But if the Biden administration does not convince Maduro and the regime to transition back to democracy, you will maybe have a bloodbath even worse than the one you have now. By the way, a point that is important, Chavez, when he was in government, he disarmed the Venezuelan population. He banned guns for every citizen in Venezuela. The only people who could have guns were his thugs, basically, and the Círculos Bolivarianos, the parallel army groups that they have funded and they were financing. And so now you have a situation where Venezuelans don't have even a pistol to defend themselves from these hordes of assassins that the regime is sending to kill them or to imprison them. And they have over 2,000 people in the last weeks have been imprisoned. Mostly young people who want a better future. So this is what Venezuela looks like right now. It's hell on earth.
Let's talk about the structure of the opposition. So it's Maria Corina Machado. I'm butchering that name, obviously. And it's difficult from the outside to understand because tell me how the last election, who was put forward as opposition in the last election? What role does she play? What threat does she currently face? And what can people from the outside do to shed light on this and to help?
Well, Maria Corina Machado has been the main opposition leader for over a decade, I would say, even a decade and a half, even if at some point in 2013, for instance, after Chavez died, you had an election where Enrique Capriles lost by a small margin to Maduro, but Maduro sold that election. They stole millions of votes. This is not the first time that this happens. And the reason is because the system in Venezuela, it requires that you have sort of an ID and you go and vote, but the system is not integrated. So in the sense that you can, with different IDs, you can vote in different parts. So one member of the government got, like, let's say 100 IDs, and he could go to 100 different places and vote for the same candidate. And this is the way they stole the last election in 2013. And back then, population wanted to rebel, but Capriles said, no, stay home, we have nothing to do here. And so it gave oxygen to the regime. And Maria Corina has always been the voice of, I think, reason and courage, because she was willing to fight. But the opposition was very fragmented and has been for a long time. This is the first time that they are all together against the regime. So which is very good. And she has become the undisputed leader of the opposition, even though Eduardo González is a candidate. And the president-elect is Eduardo González. But why? Because Maduro banned Maria Corina from running as president. So, and they have been doing this forever in Venezuela, since Chavez came to power. So Maria Corina endorsed González to the election, and González won, we all know, with a distance of over 30 points. So, with a difference of over 30 points. So now the opposition, at least, they are all together against the regime. But the main face of the opposition is Maria Corina Machado, which, by the way, deserves the Nobel Prize for Peace, because she has been so courageous in trying to bring democratic change to Venezuela. But she's not going to get it because she's not leftist. So I think there is not a big hope that she would get this. But she faces now the possibility of being imprisoned, and who knows, maybe being killed. And she's willing to give her life for the cause. I mean, she's not going to turn herself over to the regime, just, as simple, I mean, like, and I think she will try to prevent them from capturing her, but she could be imprisoned and maybe killed. So this is what she's facing, Maria Corina and her family.
So she had Eduardo González run in her stead, in essence.
Yeah.
Is she in hiding at the moment?
Yes, she is. She's. I think she's sort of in hiding because the government wants to bring her in and to take her to prison. So, but she's very active on social media, and she has showed her face on some public rallies. So I think the government is in a situation where they don't really want to do this very publicly, because they could upset the world and the people in Venezuela even more than they are right now. So it's a problem for them, because she's too symbolic. They are not going to probably go after her where everyone is looking or watching at her. I mean, this is probably not going to happen. But they would break into her house in the middle of the night or something like that. They would do. But I don't think they know where she is. But she's at risk, of course, and there are some orders that were given by the government to detain her. So I think it's a very dangerous situation for her. And as long as some regimes like the Biden administration keeps pushing for a democratic transition, maybe she has a chance. But we have communist or socialist, let's say far-left presidents in Colombia, Mexico, and Brazil, and they are in bed with Maduro also, to some extent. And they are sort of protecting Maduro. They are not really pushing Maduro to accept that he lost and then just rule the country until January, which is the date where he should leave the presidency and accept Eduardo González as the next president. But this is a life or death situation for Maria Corina and most of the opposition leaders. As I said, one of her right hands, a friend of mine, was taken to prison by the armed forces or by members of the dictatorship, and we don't know anything about her.